I mean, they have to, especially as you're looking at, obviously, you know, G2 and Rogue ended up being the two EU teams that did a really good showing at Berlin. G2 fell off on their first week in sort of positions. They're up against Secret now, but G2 fell off in the start of what you expected from the last split based on the sort of performances that were there before. Rogue here, they've taken a knock on the opening sort of Playday. They found themselves also struggling, and, you know, you want to be one of the teams that competes for the top board, but at the same time, if those other teams that you know can match your pace are struggling more, you're in a slightly better position. What are you giggling at?
Kanto and Deepak both had a lighter up, just waving it around with a little bit of fire going around. So
just to bring the energy in?
They're playing with fire for now. See if they do that in-game as well. As they start off on defense, which is, historically speaking, the favorite side for Villa. Now, if you think about the map, it is quite obvious. There is quite a lot of entrances towards the site or a room adjacent to the site, which are from outside on the balcony. You do not have much space to go with. There's no real exterior walls which you can open up like you would have on Clubhouse, for example. So it makes it a bit more difficult to get onto that site, especially on that top floor as a whole team. So that is something that TT9 will have to work on here. Try and limit those losses as you take control. If you're going for AVGs, the main staircase, mostly important. And if you do decide to go for trophy stat tree, it's often coming out from the other side, where you have red, when you have landing, and then also the master bedroom before you launch that attack.
We've obviously just come off the back of a Villa.
We have, yes.
Literally just straight off the back of a Villa in the opening game as well. Hey, there's the new Twitch Prime bundle. Cat Ella. Sorry, I was entirely distracted.
I really like the skin, actually. It's really well done.
Very cool. Siege Tails. More cat operators.
I mean, I was going to say you would never oppose that.
Never oppose that.
Have you got the Mythic Games skins that came out with the Siege board game? They have been sent out. Was there
There was, the closest was a sort of Fox Spirit.
Yeah, was that Dokkaebi,
right?
I thought it was Dokkaebi. Hibana had like the scary headgear. Yeah, but I'm not sure if Dokkaebi actually won.
No, Dokkaebi lost to Spooky Legion.
Yeah, so
because I remember I was on Team Spooky Legion for that. Anyway, throw away my point. The game we have just seen before us was obviously MNM struggling and not quite getting the lockout. A loss, sorry for the spoiler alert, on a game that's just happened on this broadcast, to a CIS region team, to a team that's been able to show a good head from the side and sort of smells of MNM. They said a lot of mistakes were made, and I guess it's down to Rogue to sort of try and iron out the ones that they made in the first Playday. The pressure starts here, right underneath AVG. They're looking for what is a lot of teams' first pick site, and that comes with a bit of control over Study, and there's the drive right down onto that main core hold of the back line towards 90, the staircase, that becomes such a battlefield.
They have no clue that they're being spotted right now. Two players at TT9 are currently under vision of Deepak. And of course, there's not going to be any aggressive swing from that main staircase from Krine in that moment in time. He's just here to waste some time, make sure that they cannot really progress any further. And as these Retiro drones continue to whiz by, Mew Jammers continue to pick them up. And they just continue sending them out. And there you have it. A grenade gets sent through. That will destroy that Mew Jammer. Will allow a third Retiro drone to actually make its way through potentially.
Well, they're trying to find just a bit of a cheeky angle, force them, as you said, into trickier and trickier situations. The Butt can do a lot of work here underneath. They're looking towards the default plant spot. They're looking to try and find anybody, but Rogue is sort of giving themselves a couple of angles, and Spoit's trying to see if he can find someone through the back of it. He's playing a little bit of an unexpected position here, but the grenades are going to put the pressure onto Deepak, and here they go, flooding their way up to that core of the backline I said before that's been fallen over. The shield sort of run moot there alongside the mute there, and now it's just the pressure on towards the site itself. But Exodus caught out from underneath, and Leon locks it off with a shotgun. The first blow is theirs.
Now still three around these main staircases. WTG up on the balcony looking to get in, but Spoit will find a mission. Looking to go more aggressive, takes out some of the Excavers, but not quite all. Retero will momentarily push him a bit backwards, but he's still in the fight, looking to go aggressive and go for a bit of a swing through Study. He spotted out a drone. He probably is aware of the fact that they might know about his location, and Nico indeed does so. Holding that doorway, looking to shut him down if he does go for a swing.
The burn starts to come through against the breach that's been able to come together. They're just trying to tuck themselves in with a body disadvantage, and there it gets widened. Kanto has the lock off from the top of red. He's looking all the way through the breach. The kit is cold, tucked on a corner, 20 seconds. This is a pretty impossible situation here for the two remaining TT9 players. A bit of a smoke coverage here. But with Deepak the only one that suffered a little bit, and now the only one locked off with more, there's a bit of revenge on the swing round. Nico finds the connection, but it's quickly responded to. Rogue get their opener.
Pretty clean round from Rogue there. They had a lot of information, of course, knew exactly where the main attack of TT9 was going to be coming from and decided to not go for that swing. Let them waste time. Let them waste utility. They can have those main stairs. That's all okay, as long as they don't go further than that, which indeed they have not. They're going to be able to find that first round. And Trophy Stat Tree coming up next. Let's see where TT9 attacks from now. Basically predicted that first round quite well. The main stairs was going to be the main pressure point, and indeed it was. This one needs to be a bit more of a mix. You want to take that master bedroom under control. You want to make sure you have landing as well, just so you can hammer down onto Stat Tree, sorry, from multiple angles. But it's always a bit difficult with these like archways looking through. Long angles towards concrete, long angles towards the wall if you do decide to open it up. You need to be aware of that.
Alright, Rogue, you're looking for 3 based on statistics. As they highlighted on the desk, this isn't really a map of preference. In fact, it's probably one of the polar opposites. It's always banned from you, and it's often the first one that you take out. Not even going to risk the game because you know a lot of other teams actually quite like to come here. It's not one of those battlegrounds that has a sort of joint disdain across the board. No, this is kind of more one that Rogue hasn't really put a preference into. But here, finding itself at the end here and there in Berlin, where it was the turn of at least the start of Rogue digging themselves into the fight. 3 could be enough, but if they keep up this energy, they might be looking at more than that.
They know about someone on top of the main stairs, but they don't know about Cryin, who's sitting halfway through. So as long as those pings keep coming in on the top, Cryin has some free game here. Might be able to go for a free pickup. As Cantor that will be flashed and will be swung in just momentarily here, gets picked up, will force Cryin to go back up, but instead he realizes about the push coming from down below, finds a mission. C4 goes out, but shut down by Nico before he can even toss it all the way through.
Very important push there from Nico. Made sure he took the top of the classic stair set, and now it's just seeing if they can try and flood this momentum across. 2 bodies dropped in the opening minute. At this point previously, they were still just working on some structural engineering, and nobody from Rogue had even been glimpsed at. Now, with some pressure and... Oh, was that a missed drone on Spoit? That drone just rolled on Boy backwards. He kept himself quiet. Scythe is coming up as a second check. That one did get caught out. Now they know that the player's close by. Can he find an escape route? He's even looking for one. Looks for the first fight. But he knows versus 5 players, more than likely somebody's going to try and cut him off from underneath, so he goes for the rotate out of there.
He's looking out for a drone as well, hope to cut out some of that information, leave them guessing whether or not he would still be active on that bottom floor. But with that one dead player they have on TT9, a flank drone surely must have been established that he can hold to ensure that there's no flank coming in from Spoit. So Rogue has fallen back a bit more towards that side, looking to play some verticality as horizontally, as I believe that is... Not quite sure who it is. Might be Leon Gibbs, might be Spoit. It's Leon up above on that bomb chassis. Sees the tip of the gun sticking out every now and then. Knows there's about to be a swing. Pink's coming through as well. Is Leon ready? Oh,
well, I think they might also have a bit of a positional call on him. There's it. The aggressive swing round stunned out WTG. Just able to get the lock in there, and now it's this 5 versus 2. Spoit repositions himself behind the chassis, takes the second stun to the face, can't quite get the lock in onto the flash, so moves closer so it doesn't quite get the full effect. He's waiting for a swing to come round, but they're not overplaying their hand. The pressure's coming across the board. Scyther has it from the other side. The kit's cold. But with 30 seconds and knowledge of the position of the player, you assume they can get a pretty easy recollection of it. Deepak suffers, gets one. Now it's the sudden 2 versus 1 situation. He's isolated it. He's found himself in a 1 versus 1. The plant's going down on the far side. He's rotating himself closer. He's looking for the engagement. Does a little bit of damage, a little bit of a scratch on the side there behind the chassis itself. Deepak! The boy from Benelux and the MVP of Berlin hasn't stopped playing yet.
And this is just one of those clutches that we had seen during Berlin as well, multiple times. And he does it again right now. What a clutch that was from Deepak with the SMG-11. You do not see that often anymore, especially with all these other guns reigning supreme on that defense. And 2-0 Rogue managing to hold on after a round that started slipping away from them at the very beginning already.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being
I mean, he is consistent.
Oh, that's for sure. I'm not going to brag about it, you know, but I've seen this for a couple of years
This is your
already.
moment, too.
Just
This is
another
your
day
moment,
at the
too.
office for Deepak.
Just another day at the office. Very, very well played. Obviously, from Deepak, there was a couple of questions of TT9, the positions they got into, recollecting the diffuser and sort of pushing into these fights. Don't get me wrong, it's obviously fantastic play from Deepak. He's making sure he's isolating an engagement, but in the very narrow space that he has, being able to find 4 1v1s with full knowledge of your sort of position is something that has obviously massively cost TT9 there, when it really could have been a very, very different round easily.
He had about half a square meter of safe ground, right?
Yeah.
That's all he had. He was basically hidden from all and every single angle, and if he stepped out one way, he would be exposed to 2 different angles at a time. And he managed to isolate the fights well due to the lack of coordination of TT9 on the end and closure of that round. If the player from Statuary would have came in at the same time as the player on the rappel showed his face, that would have been a kill for TT9. That would have been the round win. But Deepak managed to isolate them by taking the aggressive role in that clutch, by going for swings instead of waiting to be swung. Managed to win it out on the back of it. So 2-0 for Rogue. One round more convincing than the other, as Deepak goes for yet another incredible clutch.
Kanto, he's finding himself a little bit under pressure, but slips just on by. Exodus couldn't quite get the catch on the tail end of the tailing player. 2 opening rounds of theirs, and Spoit wanted to lean back into it, but knows, once again, as he did previously playing around the side of red, that sometimes the area is one best to give up. Try and find the fight elsewhere and pull out a couple of bodies. Kanto! That's a different opinion. Exodus removed off the board. The Sophia stun that netted one before. Cryin, he slipped his way around onto the back. Scythe is able to pick up a very quick response, but Mission, he hasn't been able to find himself in this game at all. There's Spoit going for the recollection. It seems like a peak is coming out of Statuary or top of red. Either way, either swing, either result. 2 players from TT9 are left standing, and they can fall themselves back towards the site. All of remaining Rogue is down there.
I think Scyther's positioning inside of games actually let them think that it was safe upstairs. Cryin event, we'll be able to pick up that 1 kill, got shut down by Scyther right afterwards, but the damage is already done at that point. Now, Scyther, together with WTG in that 2v4, taking out some of the cameras, taking out some of the information game that Rogue would like to play with, but there is still that pulse on the board. And of course you can try and find that heartbeat scanner, but they will be well aware of your current position. Scyther running through, doesn't spot out the player, I believe, right below. I'm not sure if that was actually in Memorial or if that was in the basement below, but more cameras are being spotted out. This gives them an idea of what is being watched, where they might be able to sneak in from. As more impact and breaching charges are being used, there's nothing really you can find. No player showing his face.
I mean, it's 30 seconds. They got to try and dig their way under. You've still got, obviously, a pulse, and Deepak has a C4 in his pocket. It's always a recipe for disaster cooked up in a kitchen, famous for blowing people up in a bedroom. WTG, he's crept his way a little bit closer. Wants the lead in here from the side, but the call of the Grismot is one that probably echoes a lot louder in a 4 versus 2 situation. The flashes and the drop towards the white-covered statues. They're able to find a shotgun, and Leon finds the last. It is 3 in a row for Rogue.
Good cleanup there from Rogue in the end. The timing running slowly down, and something that I have to commend them for, not a lot of teams do this, a lot of teams go aggressive in these kind of situations. They try and hunt for those kills as soon as they have the slightest idea of where these attackers are going to be coming from. Rogue just holds back, because sometimes it's better to do nothing rather than to do something, especially on that defense. When you have the time running down slowly, you have that 4v2 advantage, you have the site locked off, nothing they can do, so why risk it? Again, breaking down that last round, first of all, Kanto with a very nasty swing onto the Zofia. Nothing much that could have been done there from Zofia's side. Picked up, kill for Kanto. But then, due to the positioning of remaining TT9 players, they thought the top floor was going to be clear. Suddenly, Cryin is still lurking up on the top of those main stairs. Finds that kill onto Diana before being shut down himself. That is something that shouldn't be happening. A bit of oversight happening there from the side of TT9. Lack of droning, lack of information. Whereas Rogue has a lot of it. Playing that Valkyrie consistently shows you why she has been banned so often in the European League so far.
attackers need to locate.
Oh, the timeout. TT, take your TT and see what success might come from behind it. Because at this point, it's not that they've been a million miles away. The first round was obviously the biggest struggle that they had. They seemed a little bit slow to warm into it, but it's also the first pick defensive site, and it's a very sort of common lockdown defensive site, and they were offered nothing. Since then, Rogue have been a little bit more active in the rest of the map. Obviously, the middle round really should have been theirs, and that last one, it seemed like that worst of both worlds for TT9, where there was fights happening within the opening minute, and they couldn't seem to cement any of them. They're a team that can be good, but you're looking at Emission, you're looking at WTG not quite being able to find themselves. I mean, Emission had so many unbelievable performances, last of all last week.
I think we all remember that round still. We thought it was over, and suddenly the 1v5 ace clutch comes out.
They know what they're capable of, and they've found themselves here, I think, struggling to warm into that capability.
It's a very capable team with a lot of potential. That's what you have to remember. These teams definitely deserve to be here. You also have to remember that some of these teams have gone through very rough situations here and are still trying to get back into the groove that they were before. Whereas Rogue, well, they just came off on the back of a championship here. So we'll still be very excited to continue on, looking to find their way towards the 6th Invitational that will be happening in February. And also maybe the November Major even that they will be looking at. So, so many of these aspects you have to keep into account. Point putting down some late EDDs, entry denial devices, just to make sure that he gives himself a bit more information if there does eventually a push comes through late on the actual side.
Alright, TT9, Exodus. Well, the position of the Buck was the first one to fall, and it came after a fair bit of, I guess, steady work, debris and destruction on the opposite side. Well, there's Spoit gone first. WTG is able to get it. A bit of an aggressive swing here. He always often dabbles with the game, but this time he's found himself on the wrong end of it. Held off and pushed to a side. The drones can continue. There's the reveal. The player at the top of the classic stairs, and he's going to pull the classic maneuver and get out of there without any support from Study, without anyone underneath. You know, it's really only a matter of time, and the matter of time is now. Leon cannot quite get the full connection, and well, the second step isn't there either.
Still preparing some verticalities here. Spots the leg. Not quite the kill on Exodus. It's a 3v5 now. TT9 with a big advantage here. Emission takes a lot of damage from these verticalities that have been created and still will continue to be created. Player from 90 will provide some safety towards the actual wall from Classical. Kanto sitting in tight as well. Deepak finds the first. Brings it back slightly. That's a verticality as well that just came through. They're still using these holes. TT9 needs to be careful. A grenade is about to be pulled out, but I believe as long as you're on that billiard table, he should be safe. Jump out did come through, but the grenade nowhere near and actually damaging Deepak.
Well, here they're in a almost, I was going to say, 4 versus 2. They just pull themselves back in time. 20 seconds though, and the pressure of time is starting to tick ever louder. The spray through onto the Gemini. They know he's quite close behind the chassis itself. This C4 could be a bit defining. They're trying to open the width on the breach there. Now it's only 10 seconds. Deepak, when does he lose? Sooner rather than later. There it is. There's the catch. It doesn't quite go through the breach in the hole. They're looking for pressure on the side. Deepak gets it cold. It's a triple kill situation. He gets the next, but TT9 were just there to get that final coverage. It's a sigh of relief, but these are the moments they need to start trying to convert, as they should have done a couple of rounds before.
It's getting some flashbacks there. Finds Stu with the SMG. Just doesn't duck in time to reload and go for a third. So TT9, they will find a first round on the attack, but Rogue already have the majority of what they wanted to achieve on this defensive half. You mentioned it during round 1. 3 rounds, they'll be more than happy. 4, 5, that would be even better for Rogue. So they still have all the cards in their hands right here, as Aviator in games will be reran. They're running it back to see if they can actually lock it up this time, because there was some early deaths, unfortunately. Leon trying to go for some verticality, Spoit go for an aggressive swing, also being punished for that. So a bit more of a passiveness gameplay could definitely benefit them here at the early stages of that round. Just make sure that you have those numbers at the end of that round, because that will keep TT9 at bay. If you remember that first round, They didn't push up onto the main stairs until there was like 90 seconds left on the clock because there was someone on top. They just couldn't clear them. And at that moment, they've all fallen back towards the site. There was nothing really they could do rather than just run in and hope for the best.
Rogue doubling it down, bringing themselves back here. They've obviously already matched their previous Berlin major winning performance. There's only so many times I should mention it, but there's a lot of times I want to mention it because it was very good, and I'm happy for EU. Okay. Either way, it's a game that brought itself in on the side of the attack, brought itself together on the second half of that. It's something Rogue are more than aware of. For them, they've ticked the box of what they want as a level of success, but you don't get to be the top dog of the world, let alone the top dog of EU, with only half-hearted performances. Spoit doesn't quite get the catch, and is going to pull himself back, but do they know the second player? Yes, Malusi looking the wrong way, waiting for the fight onto the bedroom. A very well put together push there. Crying gets one back, just breaks the momentum as we start to see TT9 strike with a couple of different angles instead of being caught in these perpetual 1 versus 1s of the early rounds. Now they've got themselves an alternate push on the opposite side and an opening body once again.
The reply, very important for Rogue, but you have to see which operator they took out as well. It's Ashe. And of course, Ashe, you know, we haven't seen her in the meta for a very long time, but carries 2 breaching charges. There is a shield currently on that roost table. That means they need to use an RC Retero or a grenade from a mission to get rid of that shield eventually, and especially with the way that they're setting up. They're coming from the statuary area. That means that a vault door plant is looking very likely. So utility will have to be wasted down there. And that means they need to be very careful with where they place it. They cannot just use it all in different areas if they still want to go for a plant there. Luckily, there is no ADSs. That is the one saving grace.
Wow, the flash just gets the IS Boy. The second does a little bit more, but there's nobody able to put punishment behind it. They were just potentially maybe trying to catch up the idea of, well, what's on the other side of this? Are the ADSs? Can we burst and burn that shield without too much of a pressure? There's the answer. No. Shield's gone. The strategy table becomes a tougher thing to hold behind. Deepek just sees the head of a player a second too late. He's a little bit curious of where he can hold off. That's the thing about the rotation here. They lost the control on the opposite side, so you have to sort of turn study into a bit of a backline, but it's not the easiest one to do.
Sure, no, and especially as the drones come out now, they need to be a bit patient, hope that they might strike on surprise. But Nico's going over to go and offer some support as well. So it is going to be a 2-2 split for TT9. 2 coming in from statuary, 2 from the actual study side of things. But where will the first block fall? That is going to be the major question here.
Well, Deepek's got a shotgun. He's ready and waiting for somebody to swing round. The flash is just going to burn out. Nobody. The second doesn't catch Crying. The third doesn't catch Crying. There's 15 seconds, though. They've hopped into study. WTG's got one. They're trying to put the kit down itself. Nico's holding them at the door. And Scyther, he's not being unstuck here. He's able to find the plant pretty securely.
Oh.
A late rotate from Crying round on the back as Deepek finally wins out his engagement. They're inside. But without a C4, it's Deepek that finds WTG. They've been able to take control of study. Scyther with the swing, but Crying with the revenge. 2 versus 1. A mission. He's just playing on the top of red stairs. Just kissed the edge of a Banshee there. They're looking for the engagement. They're trying to find it out. It's downed. It's Deepek with a triple once again. And Rogue get their double down here on the site for their 4th.
Managed to retake it. There's some quick pace action. As soon as that diffuser went down, you saw all the remaining Rogue players move at the very same time. They wanted to take fights at multiple different angles, isolate these 1v1s all over. That way, there was no way any of the TT9 players could have helped any of the others. And Rogue, they will find the majority of those wins, find themselves on the 4th round now as well, with the opportunity for 5. You mentioned it before, 3 is what they're looking for, 4 is going to be a big bonus, and 5 would be great. As that is unfortunate timing.
Good reactions.
Good reaction speed from Easy.
Whew, Easy. I mean, I guess the Benelux aren't just firing inside the server. That was lightning.
That was lightning quick.
A disconnect there from Nico. Hopefully back in the game sooner rather than later. A quick tech pause and a quick moment. Obviously, that isn't great. It's 4-1.
It is 4-1.
But
I just wonder if he can actually join back, considering the timer just hit 0. But that is not of our.
That's nothing for us to worry about. That's for people who have to do that stuff to worry about.
I was just thinking about it. So yeah, but so far Rogue doing quite well. understatement maybe. 4-1 against TT9. A clutch from the back, a massive 3K as well to come through. The rest of the team is firing on all cylinders as well. It's kind of crazy because when you saw the lineup, you were like, Spoit is going to be dropping like 20 kills each game, for example. That's what people expected. But every single one of these Rogue members is able to show up at any given time. And the answer is he could rejoin.
All right.
Good to know. And now, round 6, the last round for Rogue on their defense, unless we do go to overtime eventually. And they'll be looking to make it 5-1. Really put up that pressure to TT9, who need to find an extra round here. Otherwise, they're going to have a really tough fight through the rest of the second half to come through.
I mean, I think it's been a tough fight in the first half as well. I think regardless of how this round goes, it's always going to be a tough fight in the second. But it's very fair to say it's going to be closer to an impossible one if they find themselves on the wrong end of a 5-1. Impossible's not as dangerous as the word implies in Siege, though.
No, because there's definitely been a lot of impossible moments.
We've seen a lot of impossible Siege.
Especially from TT9 and a certain man that is currently playing on that Yana. 1v5 clutch against MNM last week. Managed to keep them in the game. Unfortunately, not pick up any points that time around, though. So there's a lot that needs to happen. Spot looking to go for a bit of an aggressive swing outside. Doesn't find anything. TT9 staying hidden quite well. Now, they did make a last-second change to come through. They did have a second hard breach, they did have a soft breach, but that became IQ and floors instead. So it's only up to WTG now to open up the walls they need opened up if they want to go for a plan that way. Now, it is downstairs. It is in that kitchen. Verticality is more important than hard walls opened up might be, but I think it's still always good to have a bit of redundancy ready.
D-Pack 11-2.
Yeah, he's in a different one today.
Yeah, it's always nice to just sort of take a moment. And there goes Exodus. Once again, he's found himself as the first name off the board. It's happened, I believe, at least 3, if not 4, of the rounds throughout this so far. He's had a really tricky entrance towards this game. And there's still 2 C4s in pocket. I talked about the danger and the problems that this can be for players trying to get in a steady approach over the top, and they've just proved they're pretty good at it.
Now, what you saw there, as soon as they managed to get the kill on Exodus, every single Rogue member fell back towards the side. They have turtled it all up now. There's maybe someone down on the pantry staircase a little bit below towards that basement, but generally all of them are directly in the side or in rooms adjacent to it. So they'll be holding that down. Okay, so this is going to be that eternal battle again of...
Yeah, well, no, it'll just explode where it is, but is that out of range of the bulletproof?
Yeah, that's definitely out of range.
Yeah, that's the game.
Well done. They're just going to get knifed instead. Oh, you tried to EMP.
EMP the
but that doesn't work. Oh! The C4 from below is actually going to be injuring him there. So a bit of a bait coming through. Knew it was going to happen. And good nitrous cell use. Nico will be recovered though, but only on 20 HP.
Yeah, he's on the solid floor there. He's able to get picked up and survive. But look at the timer. 40 seconds at this point. There was only 2 players left here. You can see WTG's rotated his way around towards Laundry. He wants to put some pressure in towards the actual site itself. There's a vain hope and an idea of a plant, but he needs a lot of other work to come through for the team itself. And at this point, Rogue, all 5 of them, they've locked themselves in the site. They're happy and willing and waiting for the pressure to come across. They're still looking at some destruction on the top, but 22 seconds, and Flores using these to open up the breaches and the ideas and angles here. The creep round all the way underneath. Cryan's gone down towards the cellar, wants to try and come up behind the back of a mission. It's Nico that gets D-Packed. It's Cryan that just misses the tail of the player, but wins it out in the second. Spoit gets the fight inside the site. The kid is cold inside Laundry. It's washed, it's pressed, it's primed, and it's a 5-1.
Good half there from Rogue. Did everything they needed to do. Just a single slip up there. And of course, there was some clutching moments coming through, but a 5-1. Very commendable lead. And they'll be looking to lock it off now. 2 more rounds on the attack. And that is going to be doing it for them. And that is going to be a very good recovery after their struggles in week 1 as they look to aim and chase another major. And the 6th Invitational as well, of course. Those are their goals. See if they can go back-to-back. And truly make a different kind of norm out of Rogue. Because last 2 years, we saw them struggle during Stage 2, where they almost did not pick up a single point. That was the Rogue we knew from 2021 and 2020. They've definitely changed that around this year as they won that major. And they're looking to completely redefine themselves, put themselves on top of that leaderboard. and crown themselves as the European champions, of course, at the end of the finals that happened in December. I mean, we had the interview with Sport.
We did.
And they won the major. And then he said, but we were kind of disappointed we didn't get first in the EUL stage. I'm like, how can you be disappointed being the champions? And then be like, but we didn't have first seed.
You want to have a washout, you know?
Yeah, of course, but it's
You want
like,
to be undisputed.
that is just the ambition. It's all there for Rogue. They really want to be the best there is.
But it's good.
It is.
It highlights the mental sort of fortitude there, and it highlights that positive brain game.
There's always room to improve.
Always room to improve. And success. I mean, maybe, you know, we all know Bernie. We know the work that she does for the team. We know that within the week of winning in here, also then won in another major esport in the same week. The secret, the key, the mind games.
The Bernie meetings, apparently. They were very upset they didn't have one before last week, so
Maybe
that's the reason. They had the Bernie meeting this time.
5-1. Regardless of whether they had the meeting or not, they've definitely come for a meeting here inside Villa. There's a lot for TT9 to have to try and pull back. They found some success with their defense, more than they did on their offense in their previous game last week that came down to the 7-5 wire, but it was a much slimmer sort of difference that they had to build up on the opposite side, and it was an entirely different map. This might play a little bit better into their hands. It's really down to the pressures now onto the attack of Rogue. Can their positive mental attitude be the final factor on the decisions here to the drive on the first round? Spoilt with a steady clear round into the back of Mudroom. The spray through. They're trying to find that isolated lost player, and Leon finds him. The swing round onto Exodus. Unfortunately, the statistic I talked about before just keeps getting wider. Emission now might be the next in the firefight. They're trying to offer some support from the bottom of red, but it is a tricky situation to find yourself stuck in.
He's the one holding on here and living, hoping to make sure that there is no more progress down that first floor and no verticality can truly be established by the side of Rogue. Swings could happen at any second though, and as he is trying to rotate out, it seems like Rogue is not really that interested in clearing him out. They're going different ways, they're going different avenues. They don't need to take that first floor under control. The side is on that second floor. And of course, there is a Nitro cell, but it's an emission, and he's actually playing on the side, so that's not really much of a threat from below either.
The pop of the Candelas come through, and WTG pops Leon. The swing round onto Study Window. Cryan finds Scyther. In the meantime, they've been able to pick the diffuser back up. WTG is trying to creep closer, and there's finally a mission. Pops his head up from underneath, gets a kill, and Cryan gets that revenge. They still have the body advantage. Rogue made sure as soon as the kill came through, they had a response, but it's good work here from TT9 just to destabilize the push on the eve of the push. We heard Candelas popping. We heard an attempt at pressure in the calls, and now both those objects, both those bits of utility have been entirely snuffed out. 20 seconds. The pressure comes through onto WTG. He pulls himself and peels back towards the site itself. They still have the two remaining players and some of this structure. The shield gives them an angle and a way to stop it. They've got to try and brute force their way through, and they're going to find that a very tricky job. Cryan's the first gone. The quick swing round. Nico's able to get the connection. It's Nico with one more. Spoit's the last. He's looking for the fight inside the gun vault. Will he find it? No! But it was close.
That was just a single bullet away as he went in for the hip fire attempt there. Because you don't want to aim down the sides. It slows you down. He needed to do it this way. But it didn't help them. Eventually, 5-2. TT9, they bring it back. Can we just have a slight moment of pause here? Good time for Rogue to quickly check on, because the timer ran low. That's the issue here. There was some trade kills. Those happened. That's okay. They did have that 3v2 advantage at the end. That means they did well. They have that man advantage, but there's only 30 seconds left. The shield was still up. There was two magnets next to it. They could not clear that one out. That avenue locked off. Needed to go over towards 90 through the classical hall and look if they could make a plant happen right behind the bar, but lack of information at that point. So they need to be a little bit quicker on that approach next time they go there. Now, they haven't called a tactical timeout. They still have that. It's not necessary to do that yet. Don't worry. But they definitely can use these small timeouts here and there if a player drops to have a bit of a chat between themselves to give themselves some pointers. Calmly, steadily. As we do head down towards the kitchen and the dining area now.
5-2. The gap becomes slightly less wide. Rogue sort of showed a couple of the same struggles that maybe TT9 had displayed in the first half, where a slow and steady approach was one that cost them. TT9, they offered themselves the extension underneath, and Rogue were in a good position to try and capitalize upon it. But TT9 just did that one little thing, which was as soon as the push came through, they leant back into it. They reapplied some of the same pressure towards this approach. They have the pings and the calls on a Capcan, and he's going to slip his way away. Nico out to a little bit of an escape on the far end.
They have caught a drone, but there's still plenty of drones available. Spoilt. What? Just takes down WTG. I wonder if there was a drone. I think he just checked it for the sake of checking and found him, actually.
Oof. There's a mission with a quick response there. It's one of the things I praised Rogue on before, and it didn't work out for them here. It's something I'm still going to praise TT9 on. You have to make sure that there's at least something to buffer back with, especially in your position to do it. That's sort of golden 7-second rule of response and statement is a very important balance. Driving yourself with a continued amount of pressure or stopping the pressure overwhelming you here. As it starts to roll its way through library, they've got themselves control of roughly a third of the map. Deepek with a rotate round to try and catch the back end of Mudroom. Are they going to opt for the rotate out on this door or find elsewhere? Kanto's going for the long bounce on the grenades all the way towards that shield. Doesn't quite get it caught round. Scyther and Emission both have spread angles, and Rogue's trying to wonder how to crack the width of this.
Now, there's not really anyone playing right behind that shield, so this Gemini could actually confirm that. Oh, now there is. Scyther has just taken place as he realized that these grenades have been used and were unsuccessful at clearing it out. And that means Rogue, they need to change their plans. A minute 20 left on the clock. It is still enough time to make something happen, but this is going to be the last change they can make. They need to commit to the next ID they want to go with now. So, as there is a drop down into that basement, that has gone unnoticed. It is a mission playing out. They're rotating back towards the site.
Yeah, he found his way around there. He wasn't going to try and hold on to red, but look at this. TT9 have all fallen back. They realized that the push has stopped coming towards them onto there. They've got to make sure that if it turns into a fight on the site, they're aware of it. It's a very smart move. And now they've got themselves the 4 versus 4, but with all the solidity of the side itself and with none of the verticality been done as of this moment in time. They were really focused on the opposite side, and Kanto's going to make sure that he moves in to see if he can at least try and get the opposite end of it. Pressure towards China, the angle that goes all the way through into the site, and checking for the Capcan, the reveal on the camera. Now they'll know. There's at least a body. There seems to be an idea of a swing round, but it's the lead-in from Cryan that gets the first. They're catching out the Capcans there inside the site via China. There's a swing round and a response. There's 2. They're able to somehow swing themselves into it. Scyther on the back end wants to try and find a response and gets the head of Deepek, but it's a 2 versus 1, and now it's a post-plant. The C4 shot out. A bit of a breath of wind there and luck as it's carried right into an ongoing firefight. The split, one onto Pantry Stairs. The prep angle, they're not quite as close as he is. Scyther finds his way around and gets a great take, but Leon has it locked. It was a very good bit of movement there from Scyther. Match point.
If you cannot do it horizontally, then you just start moving in as a team. You all swing one of these angles. You all hold different ones as you move through and hope that you're quicker on the trigger than your opponent who's about to swing you. Rogue just portray that there. They were quicker on that trigger, able to put that plan down. Eventually a 1v1 clutch coming through though in a post plant, but still worked out. 6-2. Match point. And as we go on, it is going to be a very important round. TT9, they need to fight back now if they want to hold on.
Well, it's not Medics. Medics is
not Medics. It's easy. Easy says no.
But it's also not easy. It is an admin.
It is one of the face-it admins.
We won't name the admins. No. A, we might not get it right, but B, also, their job is to make decisions that people will often disagree with.
And that means it seems like TT9 will be in a 4v5 through this potential final round. A very important one at that, because this could be the end of it. If Rogue wins now, 3 points will go their way.
Now, I could be wrong about this. As far as I know, the ruling is based on you can only have 1 tech timeout, 1 tac timeout.
Yeah, 1 tech.
You're on a team, so both of those.
They've actually got 1 extra technical as well at that point. But either way, Spoiling quick. He's looking to build on the back of the momentum. Gets picked up. Suddenly it's a 4-on-4. And Scyther's still looking to go aggressive outside. Could still pick up an extra Rogue player if he's lucky.
Spoit doing his best to, you know, bring it back to a 4 versus 4 there. Wants to
Yeah, he's just making it balanced.
He's just making it balanced.
Sportsmanship.
Sportsmanship.
Yeah, sportsmanship.
Now, they have all the time in the world, and they're going to see if they can start the fight. Ooh, it looked like it was going to be on red there for a second. Do they know? Cryan slipped himself into a situation here. They're focused, a little bit locked in onto Library. The pepper, the pop, and the drop down. He just misses the height, but there it is. Scyther stacks it up on the bottom of red. It was a bit of a bold idea and a push there. Now he's going to see if he can lean it to the next. Scyther, his third for the round. A take onto Leon. Sometimes when you play with 10 men, you find yourself in a position of power. Same could be said for 4, apparently.
Exeter's going aggressive, catches Kanto with that grenade out, chases him down with a shotgun now, deals a bit more chip damage. Kanto drop shots him with the pistol instead, but a lot of the damage has already been done. Minute 40, a 2v3 situation. It's Deepak and Kanto up against the Mission, WTG and Scyther, but Scyther already managed to get 3 kills. Still looking to go for a potential ace here, remind you. So the diffuser is down, they do need to recover that at some point, or just go for the kills instead. Kanto's looking to open up the window directly next to the side. A grenade gets pulled. It's going to be giving a call out to a mission. There is someone up on that balcony. He's not paying too much attention to it as of yet, though. He knows someone else is coming up from a different angle as well. It's Deepak about to go for a gunfight on WTG, but he falls. And so does Kanto. It's a mission that will get that final kill. And TT9 will get another round.
Not a flawless, but a 4 versus 5. And you've always got to give credit to that. They've got one more. The difference is 4 if they want to try and find themselves into a position of OT. And now they've brought it back to 3. It's that sort of steady fight. It's that tricky position that you always got to try and keep the mental game. They've got to get lucky sort of only once in one of these gunfights, in one of these engagements. TT9 have to try and keep the pressure hot every single time, and they know it's going to come through because there's not really many teams in the whole world of Siege at the minute that can attack as well as Rogue on their day.
Yeah, no mistakes can be afforded anymore by TT9. That's kind of the thing. If Rogue just gets lucky with like a grenade that just rolls underneath the feet of someone rotating through, or if they do manage to get a lineup happening, it could all be over from that moment onwards, unless we have like a godsend clutch again from the side of a mission, an ace clutch, as he did against MNM. A little bit less also okay, of course. As long as you stay in it, as long as you try and push back towards that 6, see if you can pick up points against the reigning major champions.
Now, it's one of the things I sort of talked about a lot earlier on in the game, is that we were sort of missing a bit of a performance from a couple of TT9 players. Emission's still behind the path of course of Emission. He was the top-rated player in the whole EUL previously, and at this point as well, after the first Playday, he was still sort of carrying that. Here, I guess this is what we sort of see from TT9, is when you do not have that sort of Oracle player, that star player, how do the rest stack up? WTG has definitely really started to find himself into this game. Emission's had a couple more moments as well, but Nico and Psych, there have been a huge drive. Exodus, not so much, however. Opens it up with the entry. A statistic, as I've pointed out, has been a little bit of a ghost to him. It's eluded pretty much every single grasp, and the swing outside, the IQ's gone. That Valk just got a lot more powerful.
I was going to say, Spoit gone, okay, right? He's an incredible player, but he's playing the IQ as well, and that utility is now gone, which means that these Valkyrie cameras, the Black Heights, are going to be a lot more well hidden around the map, feeding that information through to the rest of TT9, and they can definitely use that to pull off some of these flanks if they know the whereabouts of any of these Rogue players, potentially play to their utmost potential. 2 minutes left on the clock for Rogue to try and make this attack happen, and this is one of those black eyes we were talking about too, actually. There's going to be a call which will stop everybody from being on those cams, will allow them to push up a little bit, but shortly they will be reactivated again.
So they're trying to force out the player around the top of the red, the drop on the shield, the burn of an ADS, the hit of the barbs as well. There's a lot of calls and a C4 well watched from the cams underneath. Emission had the vision there and it was gifted to him. More of a support structure for Scyther comes together. He also has the escape on the route underneath too, if he opts to take it. They're trying to force the player at this point, but they really don't have a lot of width and wiggle room, so they just lean into the fight and Cryan takes it, wins it out. It's one of the Rogue sort of trademark, even when caught on drone and cam, was able to get it in.
I mean, that's what helped them out in the previous attacking round they won as well, right? Like, they couldn't get any verticality done. They just had to push in at some point. And that's exactly what they did as Crying just misses out on Exodus there, rotating back up the stairs, headed up to the top floor.
There is one around the bottom of red, and that could be the big cost. Here's the call come out, waited for it just to time itself out and hope the fight would find its way through. There's pings on the player because they still have those cams from before Crying. He's a little bit isolated right now, 40 seconds. He's got to try and fight his way back up either of the two stair sets. Does he know where the players have got to? That's the big risk. Leon, he's going to offer himself some extension of support. There's one round into Art Studio. And there it is, Exodus painting his own picture of success. 20 seconds, 2 rogue players, and TT9 with a full lockdown site. No pressure has come through directly to it as of this moment in time. They're trying to pinch someone out, but at this point, you can pretty safely feel like this might be another TT9 moment. There's at least one more for the road. Deepak is able to get one, but not even Deepak, I think, can clutch that one out.
No, definitely not. That is going to be a TT9 around here. Well done by them. And I think the opening pick onto Spike, crucial there. The Black Eye staying up, feeding information, a Nitro kill that comes out on the back of it as well. Having the idea of where the entire attack comes from is just generally very helpful for TT9. So, well done by them. And there's a tactical timeout now called by Rogue. I mentioned it before, they still have it. They can now talk to their coach. They will now have the opportunity to make some small adaptations to whatever they have been facing.
They've got it. TT9 have really started to thread themselves into this game. Rogue, they haven't quite had the tenacity that we saw in the opening half. They haven't quite had that stability that's offered by the defense towards them. And, you know, we've not specifically seen their gunners have the biggest game. Kento and Spoit, obviously two names that you continually sort of throw in when Leon's finding himself towards the middle of the scoreboard and Deepak towards the top, based off the back of some outstanding clutches, sure, but he hasn't really found anything on the turn of the half, and that's that sort of telltale sign right now is they need that bottom 3 there on those cams to really start driving themselves and driving into TT9.
Mm-hmm. They need to make sure, first of all, that they don't lose someone in that opening engagement. Remember, it was a 5v4 in the round previous to the last one, so 2 rounds ago. Sport went in with the Amaru, instantly got picked up, wasn't able to lock off the gunfight to Scyther. That brings it back to a 4-on-4. And of course, maybe, like, there's 2 ways you can approach a 5v4. Either you play it methodically, use it as if you already had an entry kill, have to worry less about potentially having to trade, or you try and double down. You go in quickly, you try and get that second kill, suddenly it's a 5v3, and you basically have locked out the round. They went for the latter, it didn't work out, and got shut down and punished by Scyther, who had an incredible round at that moment in time. But that is also a round where you should have locked it off, realistically speaking. So if it does come back to a 6-6 now, you will be looking at that round where you had a free entry given to you due to an unfortunate disconnect. And you'll be kicking yourself over it, so Rogue, they definitely want to lock this off, and hence the tactical timeout. Just to slow down that pace maybe a little bit more. See, and make sure that you do not lose someone to that opening engagement that early on.
It's one of the things that we've always sort of highlighted about this sort of roster is TT9. They've always been scrappy. They've always been fighting. They've always been, generally since their inception, this swing round, that underdog roster. And that builds a characteristic about you where you try and fight every single round. Rogue here, not to say they've gotten sloppy, but they've definitely, as you said, had these relaxed moments, lost on the back of handed the free opening kill, which really should have been something that they could cement behind. Now, once again, stuck hand on the door and on the line of the pressure and control here. We saw this take last time. We saw them stumped on how to deal with the shield. They drove through into the side itself with manpower and gun skill to be able to get the round at the tail end of it, but coming down to a 2 versus 1 sort of post plant and a 1 versus 1 fight in it is that sort of moment here. Wants to swing with a grenade, just slips on by. Should be able to get rid of any of that lock-in, and now this is a width they weren't quite offered last time round.
We'll be opening up some extra angles onto the living room right here, and let's try and find Scyther. That is a turning point for Rogue. This will give them a bit more freedom. There's still some players up above they will have to be afraid of and careful of, but the site is kitchen dining, so as long as they do manage to overwhelm those that are actually playing on that site, you might be able to get a plant off again and hold it for the retake.
Spoit, he's been able to take over this territory for now. There's the reveal on the cam. They still have the vertical control. At this point, before TT9 had actually dropped off and sort of given that over a little bit, and then around the 40-second mark was when they gave it over entirely and made sure that they were in a steady fight inside the site, which obviously didn't quite work out this time. With the man disadvantage, they're not going to give it away. They're going to sort of hope that Rogue force themselves in on a flat fight itself and punish them with what is open and offered to them. They're knocking on the door. 50 seconds and still no true reveal on where the sort of players are. They're going for the ping and the reveal of Capcan on the swing in towards White and statue area. But still, they've got to try and find a way through, and they're apparently not doing it with any of the control above.
Kanto very well aware of the fact that someone is playing around. Astro there gets his head taken off by Exodus as WTG will find Leon Gids as well. An opening made further to allow a rotation into Memorial a little bit quicker. Spoit now send up top to try and take out those players. Deepak will find Nico. It's a 3-on-3, but I believe the diffuser is still down, still needs to be recovered. So this might just be a kill game instead, as Spoit will be able to yet find another.
He's looking in, the site's inside. It's a 3 versus 1 situation. They don't have the kit though. They're going for the recollection. Exodus with a huge moment. Spoit's got it in his pocket. He's looking for the plant. It's the 1 versus 1. Deepak, this game is on you. And another round just pushes Rogue over the edge. A bit of a breath of fresh air and a sigh of relief, I think, because TT9 were hot on the heels and Rogue had started to run out a bit of energy there.
I mean, you saw them crying there. Just a big sigh of relief coming through because that could have just as well gone the other way. I thought it was no time to recover that diffuser based on where it was and where the Rogue players were. 10 seconds is all they had to run to it, grab it, and put that diffuser down on the ground in the best spot they